Welcome to the Jeremy Mullins podcast, where we take a deep dive into different educational topics to help you optimize your life. I am Jeremy, your host, and I'm here with my co-host, my partner, Mr. Reno.
What's going on, brother?
Oh, living life, man. It's been a hectic 6 weeks.
Yeah, this is your first time home. I say you've been home for a few days now, but this is your first time home since what, early July?
Yeah, mid July. I think mid July. I've been on the road, so this is the first podcast that we've done. I was actually educating the team yesterday, an announcement on the app, and I was like, hey, it feels a little weird to be sitting here at my desk, doing this. So it's been a hectic, crazy, fun block of time. That'd be a great way to put it.
Yeah. Was this your guys' vacation per se? Or
Well, I
is there
think
something
it's just,
lined up for fun?
yeah, I think it's just a couple things that would go out of it, right? Like, it truly was a season, right? We talk about seasons of life all the time and, how things can be busy. What is the goal of this period of time? And yeah, it was vacation experience, all wrapped into one, right? And, it's awesome. It's kind of, things that we've always envisioned, especially with Katie, and I'm supporting the Tallahassee State College softball today. I actually have a nutrition brief that I'm going to be doing with them this afternoon. But Katie's an assistant coach there now, and so she'll have summers off, and of course be working remote, and like that's we want to make memories with kids, right? That was kind of the whole process, and the goal of this last summer, plus some things I talked about in previous podcasts, so like for myself going back and personally knocking off a race that I chose to not finish a few years ago, and that's helped me mentally. It's helped me get back to having that alpha drive, or that drive as an individual of wanting to complete stuff, right? And continue to choose hard, and do harder things, because it makes me a better person.
Yeah. Now when the kids were traveling with you, were they just at these sites or were they going and doing fun things while you guys were in the thick of it for the few hours?
Listen, it's a shit show. Yeah, it's like, I mean, all my parents out there, like, and I try not to be negative on social media, right? But sometimes I do post things like, it's cool, but also like just some things like, hey, it's very difficult in a hotel room with 5 people, and one of those is an 18-month-old, right? And we try to talk to them like, hey, this is not an entire 3-week vacation, right? We'll have some vacation days, but the goal here is, mommy has training that she has to do for her race. Daddy still has to work, every day. And it was just trying to get them to understand that it was just not 100% wake up, do what you want to the entire day, all fun stuff, right?
Yeah.
So we tried to break that up as much as possible. I would take them, and I would get them out moving, and we would go try to do some stuff while Katie was, training on her bike. She would do the same thing. Maybe she'd, have them read, have them do some work while I was working. That way, it still just is teaching them good habits, of life in general, right? But we had some fun stuff. We did some cool hikes as a family. They got to ride some of the biggest thing I think a lot of mountain towns are doing right now are those roller, like, mountain coasters.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I've
so
seen
they
them. I
got
want to do one, but I'm also terrified.
well, I always wonder, like, how stable is this thing, right? Is it
Yeah.
is it really going to hold on to the track as 220 pounds is running down this track, fast?
Hmm.
So they had some times. I mean, it wasn't without struggle, and from a personal standpoint, once again, going back to seasons of life, right? And for me, knowing that this was really about them. Okay. So other than that first race at the beginning of the trip, this entire trip was about them. Right. And, so if we look at, juggling things, right? Family, work, family and work were above and were a bigger priority than myself and my wellness journey. Right. And I kind of talked about this on social the other day. Like, I'm trying to drop, 10 to 12 pounds right now. I feel heavier. Now what's kind of neat coming back, and I don't know if it was because I was doing a lot of the sodium, a lot of the hydration packets. But I was looking at what some, even the podcast you just posted, like my face looks swollen, right? I don't know
Yeah.
if it's just the extra sodium coming in, because I do feel already that a lot of that excess weight or inflammation is already gone after a week of just getting back on track, maybe cutting out the hydration stack or hydration sticks I was doing extra. But anyway, my point to that being, I'm 10 to 12 pounds heavier than I wanted to be, right? And a lot of that was because I didn't put myself priority in this season of life of what we were doing traveling. And I'm okay with that, right? I'm not upset personally. It's just okay. Now I've got to dial it back, right? Work always is going to be a priority, right? Not that the family's not a priority, but I'm moving some of that back to me now that we're back into a routine, and it's kind of shifting to okay, now me and Katie are training for Ironman Florida, where it's an equal training capacity versus her being top priority, or me being top priority. It's both a priority now as we're moving forward for this next event.
So when you go into that season, are you guys at the same, like, she might be better at bike or you might be better at bike, you running, her running, are you guys at the same, like, capacity to, like, push each other? So that's kinda cool if that.
We are now on the bike, which is nice. Like, I'll tell this was a funny story. And my husband's wife are gonna have to, they probably understand this. So, been gone, got back in town last week. Got to spend time. We were at ROTC at University of Kentucky, you and I and our team in Kentucky. But I got home and got up early Friday, knocked out my messages, got called up, so about 3 o'clock, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go ride my bike. There's a little loop here. It's a 5 mile loop. I want to get it under 30 minutes. I think my fastest time originally was like 36 minutes as I'm slowly chipping away at it, but I really think I can go under 30. And date night that night, supposed to be a bike ride with Katie, followed by a drink, right? So I'm like, I'm gonna ride just an hour really hard. I want to see if I can, PR on this loop, and things are going awesome. I'm playing around with different air pressures in the Yeti, and I'm just floating over rocks. But the problem is, I think it's a little bit too light of air pressure because in curves, I would feel it kind of flatten down, almost feel like I have a
Mhm.
flat slide up and under me, and but still doing good, still flying for me on this loop. And so I hit a little jump, get a little air, and I'm like, man, this just everything is flowing today, right? Come up on the next jump, and I go to load, and I press down on the front tire, and where it didn't have a lot of air pressure in it, it got wobbly, and I hit the jump. The bike goes out from underneath me. I don't know how it unclipped, but the bike's going this way. I'm in the air, and I'm like, oh crap. And it wasn't like a soft landing and slide. It was more like just blunt land on my hip, right on my elbow. Of course, it's on the surgical side. And I just remember just like thinking, Jeremy, how are you going to tell people you cracked your hip? You're going to be the butt of all jokes, right? And so I shake it off. It hurt. I mean, I get back on the bike. I'm a little like shaken up. Anytime you take a big hit like that, it's just like, oh, what's going on? And after probably 3, 4, 5 minutes, I kind of got a little bit of a pace back. Definitely not as fast as I was. Finished out that ride, and all I could think was, I'm not going to be able to ride on date night, and she is going to be so mad at me, right? And
Yeah.
there's no way I can hide this big bruise and scrape and blood, so I have to tell her I went out the road without her, to start with. Um, but I sucked it up, went rode with her. And the question that you asked, like, of course, she just finished Leadville, right? And she's riding hard. And I'm just right there, like heart rate 160, 8 mile or 168 miles an hour, 168 beats, which on a mountain bike, I'm working. And she's trying to drop me, and she can't. So right now, to answer your question, we are actually about equivalent on the bike, right? I can create more power. So if it's a sprint or something like that, a short little incline, yes, I can create because I create more watts than she does. But if we're just out there riding for endurance and speed, we are the same, which is awesome. And her coach is actually starting to program for me again, and we're going to make one long ride a week the same thing where we can go out and ride together. So that's something
Mhm.
we're kind of doing for the fall from a relationship standpoint, is making sure we're getting date night or date day, which will be a ride together and either brunch or a drink or something like that after. So yeah, we'll push each other there. She's a better runner, hands down. So I'd only say that I can run with her, it'll push me, right? Because I'm way back. And then she's a touch better swimmer. She's a better athlete, period. So yeah, while the bike we're now, which is awesome because we can go out and ride together and we can really push each other. So super excited about that.
No, that's awesome. I saw there's a friend of the UFC guy that we filmed, and him and his wife or girlfriend, long term, whatever she is, Um, they'd go on like they go to the middle of Ohio, middle of nowhere, and there'd be like legit trails for hundreds of miles, and
Okay.
there'd be every 40 miles there'd be like coffee shops or a winery, or it was like meant for bikers to go do 40 miles, eat something, drink something, go 40 miles, eat, drink something. So it's pretty
Yeah, I mean, and that's what
yep.
we teach, right? Inside of when we're working with people in wellness is to go find these events, and I say that broadly, okay? And kind of tie all this together. Like we have some great stuff going on. People are finishing, the walk, run, ruck challenge that we put out there, and that people are just ecstatic that they were able to finish that distance, which makes me happy, right? I'm glad we pushed it. You pushed it. I think that was the first half marathon ruck that you've done. I don't know if you ran a half
I've never
marathon.
run a half marathon
Okay.
either.
So
Yeah.
like even for yourself, you go out and do, 13 miles that you've never done, right? There's so many like things right now that are just that we're seeing in our little subculture, our world that's good, right? We're finished up another challenge, inside the first format. This is the last week of the summer challenge, having some great results in the lifestyle, which means they've been participating longer than 8 weeks. So just a lot of good things in life, right? That we're seeing inside this wellness space. But I think finding, a hobby and a sport that's wellness, quote, fitness related that you can train for, it, it's hands, and this is just my opinion, but I think it's one that hands down one of the best things you can do, right? Because we as humans, we are programmed to choose easy. We are wired to pick easy. But when you're training for these things, the training is going to put you in uncomfortable situations, but also the events will put you in comfortable situations. And I'm blessed that I've done a lot of hard events, and I'm blessed that I've been able to do that because it helps me stay calm and it helps me be positive, right? Like there's no way that I can hop in the water, swim 1.2 miles without swimming any laps in 3 years without that confidence, right?
Mhm.
And it's not confidence in that I'm going to go fast. It's confidence in my abilities that I'll be okay under pressure to stay calm, right? And everybody's like, "Well, how'd you do that? You just had yeah, just had surgery, just got cleared." But it's the past experiences and putting myself in uncomfortable situations that help me through those things.
Yeah. Um, in these seasons, do you find that the one that they're about to come up into, so school is started, they're a few weeks into school, it's going into these holidays, is this one of the harder seasons that people typically enter,
It's
or the summer?
it's just different for everybody. I think it's different for everybody, and it's different. I used to love summers as far as personally. I would have more time. I could go train more. Like summers were always good for me. Now they're becoming a little bit difficult as the kids get older and have more responsibilities. So I think, I don't think there's an specific answer to that question. I think it's going to vary person to person. I think it's going to vary on what's going on and what you make priorities, right? You've
Mm,
ever said, well, football season's hard because they go to a lot of tailgates. Okay, if you're in school, right, you're working in maybe a school system, collegiate school system, and that's part of what you're doing, then okay, I got it. But if it's just because you like football, right, then maybe, you just need to make wellness or make something else, a priority. But
right.
I want people to understand that, like, hey, seasons of life are okay. There's times that you want to maintain, right? There's times that you might not track your food. There's times that you may not do, you know, extra workouts, right? There's times in that, but you have to be 100 or honest with yourself, 100% honest with yourself. If you let yourself go too far, or you get to a point that you got to draw a line in that sand.
This just popped in my head. Now, this was Nick Bear, YouTube guy, and obviously he owns BPN. But um, I was watching his YouTube, and he's starting to get into this. He was in this. I don't know what I'm training for. It was just like I'm not doing a marathon. I'm not doing this. I'm just running. I'm just lifting. There was no kind of goal in sight. And he said, I do way better when there is an event down the line, whether it's a year from now, it doesn't matter, like that I can work towards. Um, so that way there's goal in sight. And that's why I think the first form goals or challenges are so important. And I find it more inside myself now that we've decided to do this Ironman thing, like, oh, I am actually
Yeah.
going out and running.
Say it
I
again.
oh
Go for
yeah,
it.
now I'm gonna do the half Ironman next
Yes,
spring.
sir. Yeah.
Now that I'm forcing, like when the Garmin says, "Hey, here's your running workout," I go do the running workout, even if it's a 4 mile harder run. I just go do it um, because I have this goal in mind that I don't want to fail. And yeah, so that kind of jumped in my head when you're saying either the
And that's
season sucks and just having something to go towards.
100%. And Nick's a great athlete, right? Like I think we need to look at that from the standpoint like here's a great athlete, a very successful, gentleman inside the military, outside the military, and he's saying that like I got to have something on. I'm better when I have something on.
Yep.
And I would agree that I'm better when I have something on the schedule that I'm training for, right? And a lot of that we talked about this with habit change and identity. We want to become where I'm not just a quote triathlete because if I label myself as a triathlete, in the sense, or I'm training for an Ironman, then I only do those disciplines because I'm training for that event, right?
Mm,
Versus labels myself as a healthy person that works out, then I'm always going to be working out in some fashion, right? Because that's an identity I have is I'm a good leader, I'm a good father, and part of that is being healthy. Okay. But I would agree to say his statement is I always do much better, especially fitness wise, right? Because I will say sometimes if we look at overall wellness, maybe my fitness, I put too much time in fitness and other things in life get a little bit out of balance for lack of better terms, right?
mhm.
But yeah, I think people should, right? And to what you said, and I'll throw this out there to anyone. We're gonna have a group team out of Team Alpha inside the first form app that I coach, along with two. We got a new coach on now, so I have two coaches who are underneath me, kind of learning the way. God, it makes me feel old. You become the coach of the coach, right? But we are going to have a group of individuals that are going to do half Ironman in Texas next spring in April. And I would invite anybody to do that. My coach, Katie's coach, Kevin Summers, and I are going to develop a program and we're going to do weekly calls. So if anyone's interested, we're looking at starting, this is August, almost September, probably the 1st of October. We're going to roll this out. It's going to be just a small charge, $100, $125 for the entire coaching till April, which is unheard of because most time endurance coaches are charging two, $300, $1,500 for like X pros a month, right?
Mhm.
We're doing just a small amount, really, as we've learned, accountability reasons, get a little skin in the game, right? And we're going to program workouts and hopefully get a bunch of people into the sport and accomplish things that they never thought they may do.
Yeah, and that's what just rucking. Well, so I've rucked 20 plus miles in basic training, but I don't even count that because that's forced motivation. Forced. I mean, if you don't do it, there's no not doing it. You're just going to do it. Um, but that was a very satisfying. Like I got to my truck, my feet were hurting because I was in shoes I shouldn't have been rucking in, and that's the first time carrying 30-pound plates on my body for 4.5 hours. So like the satisfaction was to the moon when I got to my truck.
So I think, kind of tie this one up because I know we got a lot of stuff that we want to get through this morning. Not on this one, but on other episodes. We're going to try to knock out 2 or 3 episodes this morning. Um, Go sign up for something, right? That would be my biggest thing. If you're listening to this, go pick an event, right? Pick an event to train for. Realize that life isn't always going to be perfect. You're going to have seasons of life that, hey, sometimes you personally may need to take a step back, from your fitness goals or wellness goals. Maybe it doesn't mean that you're not doing wellness, right? It's not that you're not doing working out completely. It's not that you're not eating good, right? You're still working those habits in. It just might not be at the level that you've been used to, right? And we'll see that sometimes in these challenges, people wrap it up. They're like, Jeremy, I feel like I'm lost because they were just on point for so long. So we got to kind of figure out what that looks like in this next season. Okay.
Mhm.
Sign up for an event, right? It's something I would highly, encourage you to do in the next couple of episodes, some questions we have been coming in is on fiber. So we're going to talk about dietary fiber. Why we in my education we don't count net carbs, we just count total carbs. So we're going to dive into that. We're going to dive into the benefits of caffeine, how you can use caffeine to increase performance, but also throughout the day. And speaking about caffeine, I saw you were drinking on it too. Man, the long run coffee company, I'm impressed.
Mhm.
More
Super.
the coffee's good, right? Like you can tell bad coffee or whatever. The coffee's good, right? I've had coffee on that level before, but I was impressed with their customer service. I was impressed at how fast my order came in, what it looked like, how quote unquote pretty, I say pretty, but prepped, which is part of it, the aesthetics,
Mhm.
and opening the box. So pretty happy with it. I did lose my Yeti though. Bree steals my Yeti.
Yeah, guys, I can't recommend it. The code's below if you want to save a little bit of money on it. But I mean, it comes in. I know you didn't get the big box, but I reordered a new supply.
Oh, did you already do a second order?
I'm already on my second order.
Okay.
I burn through coffee. Big coffee snob, so it actually is very, very good coffee. I was nervous since it has the electrolytes in it, that you were going to taste a little bit of a saltiness to it. None whatsoever. You get it in this. It comes in a big bag, and each thing comes in a box. Um, I mean, and it came to my door in like 48 hours, and I ordered it at like midnight one night.
Yeah, and how we got turned on to them guys was it is electrolyte infused coffee. So if you're already doing coffee, right, and you're looking to work some electrolytes into your program, right, into your nutrition program because you're starting to do more endurance sports, which we're talking about a lot lately. Definitely look at them, give them a try. So Reno, good to be back in the saddle. Guys, thanks for listening. I know we rambled a little bit today, but we just kind of want to do one, just an update on life, what we're doing, a little bit of this travel this summer, but then just rest assured, like, because we understand it. As Reno mentioned earlier, a lot of people, are going back to school, whether it be as school teachers or our kids are going back and getting into school. So these schedules are changing, right? Every time schedules change, it's a season of life. So think about how's this next season look for you? Is it time to push your wellness? Is it time to push your fitness? Or is it time to maintain, right? Pick and choose those battles wisely throughout the year. That way you can continue to get better, continue to have success as you move forward. So appreciate you guys listening. And we'll be back in action with caffeine and fiber soon.
So you